It's crazy to think that it's been a year since I put out the comparison between these two microphones. A lot has happened, and the microphone comparisons that I've done since then have been more in depth and higher quality. So that's what I want to do for you guys today, and give you a better version of that video. Welcome back to the Rebel Tech channel. I'm Justin, and in this video we're going to be talking about the AT4040 and the AT2020, doing a upgraded and updated comparison between the two. Now, in classic Rebel Tech fashion, let's start off with the builds and talk about how these things are constructed physically and aesthetically. The construction on Audio-Technica, if you know, these microphones are very well built, their grills are very well built, and the construction is really great, sturdy, and you don't have to worry about them feeling like a Tonka toy, which is obvious because of the names and what they are. So I prefer the 4040 series look a little bit better, a little more tucked in, a little more just my style. The 2020, on the other hand, looks a little bit more bulky, but for the most part, I have no issues with it. It's just I prefer this style a little bit better. And finally, as far as the physical comparisons are concerned, there are switches on the back of the 4040, a 10 dB pad and a 80 Hertz roll-off. So anything below 80 Hertz starts to roll off. So yeah, that's pretty much the end of the builds. I really love both of these. The 4040 does come with a shock mount, but the 2020, you can get a shock mount that's made for the 20 series microphones. It fits the 2020, the 2035, the 2050, and now the 2040, which that video is out. A bunch of comparisons are going to be coming out in the future, and you'll be able to decide if this may be an option for you in that $100 market of the budget broadcast microphones, because there's a lot of them. There's too much of them. And I have a lot of them as well. Let's get into some techie talk before I start babbling about other stuff. You know how I love my tangents. So the first thing that stands out for me is the sensitivity when you compare these two microphones. The AT2020 has a sensitivity of -37 decibels, while the AT4040 has a sensitivity of -32. To put that into perspective, right now I have them recording into the Zoom F6 right now. And if I was to go a little bit more in depth, they're roughly around the same peak. I try to get them at the right level regardless of their input. So I try to get them right at the same level when I'm talking. I mean, give or take here and there. But just to give you a little perspective, I have the AT4040 at 36 decibels, so I am adding on 36 decibels of gain, while the 2020 is at 40. So maybe it's just how I'm talking into them, maybe the adjustment of how they are twisted, but for the most part, it's a 5 decibel difference, but when I'm recording into them, there's a 2 decibel difference with the gain. So the last thing in Techie Talk, we're going to talk about the frequency response curve, and if you've been here before and you could say it with me, the frequency response curve is the most important thing about a microphone because it shows how the microphone was tuned. Now, I really do stand by that because this is the best way to get a visual and an understanding of a microphone before you even get it. And if you understand where your voice is or what source is going into the microphone that you're going to buy, you can understand roughly how it's going to react. And sometimes it reflects in the frequency response curve, sometimes it doesn't. It's a kind of a crapshoot sometimes, but it is a physical representation of how the microphone is tuned. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to go into the lows. So you can see here the AT2020 is a little bit below where the AT4040 is, and they both naturally, this is obviously natural, no low cutoff added just yet, that they have a very similar curve. It's just the 2020 is quieter, probably about 2-3 decibels quieter, because you see that line there, the 4040 is right at the line, the 2020 is right below the line. Now, of course, you could have that 80 Hertz roll off on the 4040 and it changes everything. And in my opinion, I think 80 Hertz is right on the cusp of being too much, because you might be losing stuff as far as your tone of the performance. And you could always add it on later, or maybe if your source is not using those tones, maybe it might be better to do it from the microphone. But in my opinion, I feel that 80 is just on the edge. I feel like 60 is perfect, but that's just my opinion. Now as we get into the low mids, I know I usually do lows, mids, and highs, but the low mids is where you see the similarity as well. There's a dip here right around like 80, 90, and you got a nice dip there. Now let's move into the mids, which is pretty easy to talk about because they're both fairly flat. If I was to be nitpicky, I would say the 4040 is more flat than the 2020. But is it flat enough to justify $200 more? I'll leave that decision up to you. In my opinion, it is. But in a lot of other people's opinions, it really doesn't really matter. And a third opinion, it depends on what you're using it for. If you're using it for streaming, you probably don't need it. I love the way the 4040 sounds, but if I was strictly just doing streaming, I wouldn't waste my money on it. I'm a content creator. I'm a audio recordist. I like having different options when it comes to microphones. Do I need all these options? No, absolutely not. Do I need? No, of course I don't. But I have the options, and I have the means to do so. If I wasn't like in the position to make those financial decisions, I wouldn't. But right now I am. And maybe in the future, if I decide to go in a different route, I might sell off some stuff. But regardless, it depends on the scenario that you're in. If you're a person that's not necessarily a professional audio recordist or someone who is using microphones specifically for certain jobs, just stick with something simple, something good quality like the AT2020. Now finally, the highs. And this gets a little bit funky and a little weird, but for the most part, from 1K up, both of them have a steady rise, a little bit more on the 2020 side, but for the most part, it has a rise with a dip right around that 3K range, 3 to 4K. Now you have your presence boost in the highs. On the 2020 side, we got peaks around, I guess, like 6, 6.5. You got like 8, 8.5, and then starts to dip off with another peak around 14-ish, and then dips off as most microphones do. The 4040, on the other hand, has less presence boost, but more drastic. So after 5K, you got to rise up to about, 6.5 or so, dips drastically down below the 0 mark, and then rises back up right after 10K and then dips right off. In my opinion, I like the 4040's high end, the way that it sounds, but on a chart it's a little off-putting because I feel like it's too aggressive, but as far as the sound is concerned, I like it. Not to take anything away from the 2020 is a nice smooth tone, but I prefer the 4040 because that's just my opinion. I mean, everyone else has their opinions. If you want to grade this on a curve, maybe the $200 is not worth that difference in tone, because you can try to EQ the 2020 to make it sound like 4040. So to finish off frequency response, I prefer the 4040 because I just like the low end. It's a little more boosted, and the mids, they're more flat. The high end maybe lean towards the 2020, but for the most part, I like the 4040 better on a chart, but that's very like half point, if anything, much more. It's a close second to 2020. Alright, so we're in the middle of the room right now, and I wanted to do these tests in the middle of the room because it's just easier to walk around and also get a room sound. So first off, we're going to do a noise test. So I'm just going to be quiet for a little bit, get the natural tones of the room, boost it up a little bit in post, and let you guys hear it. Then we'll do another round with that, comparing the low cutoff and the AT2020 naturally, because there's no low cutoff. Alright, so you may have heard some talking upstairs, definitely some walking upstairs. So now we're going to switch on the low cutoff and do another noise comparison. Okay, so this is going to be a test with the low cutoff on in the studio. You're probably not going to use this very much, but this is just an example of what you may encounter with using it. I'm just doing a little bit of a test, and we're going to do more of a test with the tonal sounds in the booth. But this is just a small little test for the low cutoff in the studio, just for people who are interested. So throughout this video, I've been talking about 2-3 inches away from the microphones. Pretty standard distance for using a microphone. Let's back up a little bit and see how they react. Now I'm about 1.5 to 2 feet away right now. This is going to be your distance test for the AT4040 and the AT2020. And you're probably going to get a little bit more room noise. You're getting a little more reverberations. Not much because there's a lot of stuff in the room, but there could be some reverberations. Alright, 90-degree test on the 4040 side, stage left. And this is going to be your off-axis rejection, closer to the 4040, like I said, and further away from the 2020. A little bit of pickup on the front. Actually, a lot of bit of pickup on the front. A little bit on those corners. Starts to reject on the 90 degrees and then starts to be a little bit more in the back. Alright, now on stage right, the AT2020 side. This is going to be your off-axis rejection. About like 1.5 feet, maybe even 2 feet. Probably closer to like 1.5 feet. Yeah, I got masonite on the other walls over there, so you might have a little bit more reflection with my voice reverberating back, but as I keep saying, it's not a big room. It's got a lot of stuff in it, so it shouldn't be that bad. Alright, so now about 2 feet away from the rears of the microphones, and got your 180-degree test. These are cardioid polar patterns, so they shouldn't have a lot of pickup on the back. Alright, about 2 feet away from the fronts of the microphones, and the low cutoff is on the 4040. This is what it's going to sound like with your off-axis rejection in the Rebel Tech Studio. Mildly treated room, some soft surfaces, some little bit of flat surfaces, nothing too crazy. I tried my best to treat it as best I can, but there's only so much you can do. Now we got a 90-degree test on the 4040 side, stage left, with the low cutoff on the 4040. And this is going to be your off-axis rejection. They're both cardioid microphones, so they're going to pick up at the front, reject the back. Other 90 degrees, stage right, AT2020 side, this is going to be your off-axis rejection for 90 degrees. And as I said before, there is masonite, there's other stuff. The 4040 is a little further away with the low cutoff on. About 2-3 feet away from the rears of the microphones, this is going to be your off-axis rejection. And these are cardioid, so you should have a good rejection of noise from the rears. Alright, I'm a little off kilter here, but I'm just always, so just do a little bit of Alright, so let's head into the booth and do some tonal tests and get a more natural tone of the microphones with less room noise and more just focused on the microphones. Alright, so we're in the booth right now, and this is the first time I've had these in the booth since we did that 3 microphone comparison between the 2020, 2035, and the 4040. At the time, those were the only Audio-Technica microphones that I owned. Now I have the 2040, which I'm doing a bunch of comparisons. So with the comparison between these two, let's do something to get out of the way, because I always forget. Plosive test, and this should be an easy one. AT2020. Yeah. 4040. Yeah. You need it. You of course need it. 4040. 2020. Yeah. You need a pop filter when it comes to condenser microphones and any microphone that's really sensitive. So, moving on to the tones, and right now we're listening to the AT4040, and something about this microphone that I really love is, of course, like I said, the low end. I love that low, smooth sound, and I use this microphone actually as a streaming microphone for a short amount of time. I might throw it on the stream every once in a while just to mix it up a bit, but the thing that I noticed is it's almost like it's not a broadcast microphone, obviously, but it has that, like, if you get up nice and close to it, you get a little bit of that broadcast vibe, a little bit there. And it's something that's so nice, especially if you're looking for a certain performance in singing or R&B, rap, whatever it is. If you're trying to get that, simulate that kind of tone and try to get that low end emphasized, reason why they have the low cutoff. So let's switch over to the AT2020 and do a little bit of that. Yeah, you got that proximity effect, obviously not as emphasized because it's not as boosted, but certainly you get a nice performance out of it, and you could hear like it's lacking a little bit. But of course, you're talking two different worlds of condenser microphones. So high-end stuff, I would probably go with the 4040 if you like that low tone. If you don't, there is a low cutoff, which we're going to test right now. So now we have the low cutoff on the 4040 right now. And if I get up close to it, you notice that there is less low end. But it has some nice low end that's still there. And it's the low mids that I really love. Obviously from 80 hertz and higher to like 150, 200, maybe even 300 there. I'm guessing here because I'm thinking of how a parametric EQ would function. And especially with my voice. I know my voice the best out of all of them. So going back to the AT2020, we have that nice smooth tone that it's known for. And it's nothing to write home about. It's just a nice standard, good foundational microphone that if you're a person who's just starting out, or if you're a person who doesn't really care too much to go too crazy with their audio but want good audio, this is a great option. It really is. Okay, so we're in the untreated room right now, and we're going to do a couple of tests. We're going to do a noise test with and without a fan. We have a ceiling fan, and we also have a air conditioner in here. So we're going to do noise tests with and without. I'll do a mix between that and my voice, and we're going to do off-axis rejection, just like we did in the studio, with and without the low cutoff on the AT4040. Alright, so the fan's on all the way, and this is going to be the mix between my voice and the fan. So if you have a ceiling fan, I wouldn't recommend using it, or I wouldn't recommend using any kind of cooling stuff unless it's pretty silent. And of course, if you're using a condenser microphone like this, it's going to pick up a lot more noise than you would if you were using a dynamic microphone or whatever it may be. But as you can see, I'm close up to it. And you want to be as close as you can, especially if there's surrounding noise, because it will dampen those surrounding noises a little bit, but there's only so much that can do. Alright, so mix between my voice, the low cut is on, and the ceiling fan is on. So this is what it's going to sound like in the untreated room. I'm pretty sure that there wouldn't be that much of a difference because there's not that much of a hum from this ceiling fan, but there could be. I'm not really sure. Maybe you notice something with the noise test with it boosted, but for the most part, I don't think you're really going to notice much, especially with me talking so close to it. Alright, so the air conditioner is on low, and this is going to be the mix between my voice and the air conditioner. It's roughly about 3 feet away, right about in this direction, about 180 degrees, or maybe a little like 150 degrees from the AT2020, and like 90 degrees-ish from the AT4040. And this is just an example of how you would deal with extra noise from an air conditioner. If you want to stay cool in your room while you're recording stuff, this may be an issue. Possibly you can make a shield or whatever it is, but for the most part, if you're recording in a room, you should try to reduce the noise, in which case air conditioners make a lot of it. Alright, so this is the mix between my voice and the air conditioner on high. It's probably not that great because these condenser microphones are pretty sensitive, nothing crazy, but it's really a matter of, do you really care if you have those extra noises and you want to stay cool? If you're streaming, maybe it might not be an issue. You throw a little bit of a noise gate or whatever it may be and angle your microphone properly. That could be a possibility. But if you're a person like me that needs to record things properly and professionally, quote unquote, you don't get the luxury of having a fan or a air conditioner on while you're recording. Alright, here's the mix between my voice and the air conditioner on low with the low cutoff, and yeah, it's probably going to be different, but I don't really remember. I did a couple of tests like this a while ago, and I don't really remember how it is, but let me know down in the comments, and I'll know in post when I'm doing a edit on this. I couldn't think of the word. Okay, so air conditioner on high, low cutoff is on, and this is going to be the mix between my voice and the air conditioner. You probably noticed that it's just probably not that great. I'm going to admit, it's not going to be that great. I'm not even listening to it, and I know it's not going to be that great, so let me know how bad it is down in the comments, and maybe it's okay enough. Now about a foot away from the microphones, and you probably got more room noise, and like I said, there's a lot of stuff in the room, so you won't have to worry about many reflections. There's some glass over there with the window, TV behind me, so maybe a little bit, probably not too bad. Alright, AT4040 side, stage right, and this is going to be your off-axis rejection on the 90 degrees. The reflections back are off the windows, so that could be a thing that you have to deal with. A little bit more of a flat wall over there, but probably not too bad. Next up, 90 degrees stage left on the AT2020 side. 90 degree test on your off-axis rejection. And this is what it's going to sound like in an untreated room, but still a lot of stuff. The reason why I use this for my untreated room is because it could be relatable to anyone that's in their bedroom or something similar to this. 180 degree test on the off-axis rejection, about 2-3 feet away. And this is what it's going to sound like in the untreated room. Remember, they're both cardioid polar patterns, so they pick up in the front, reject the sides, and reject the back the most. It's that heart shape we all know and love. Alright, I'm about a foot away from the front of the microphones with the low cutoff on the AT4040. This is what it's going to sound like. This might not make that much of a difference. Maybe some of the room noise, it could make a difference with the rumble of the air conditioner downstairs, but probably not that much more. Alright, back on stage right, off-axis rejection, low cutoff is on the AT4040, and this is what it's going to sound like in an untreated room. Again, flat wall over there, some glass as well, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Let's go to the other side. Back on stage left, I maybe misspoke before, but that was stage right. This is stage left. I get those confused sometimes. On the AT2020 side, off-axis rejection, low cutoff is on the 4040. And you have more of a hallway over there, so you may get some echo back, but it's probably not too bad. Last but certainly not least, the 180 degree test with the low cutoff on the 4040. And this is what it's going to sound like in the untreated room. Drywall on the walls, trying to figure out things to say. Cardioid polar patterns, picks up in the front, rejects the back and the sides. Okay, so let's head down to the studio and finish this up. I'll give you my impressions and see how these things fared against each other in a part 2 that is a year away, or a year past the first one. And there it is, 1 year later, the AT2020 versus the AT4040. Two great options for microphones used in so many productions, and they are very good for their price. The AT4040, of course, it's more expensive, but you're getting a higher quality in a lot of those specs that we spoke about. And with the AT2020, it's really just a good foundation for a person's first microphone, and also one that could last you a very long time. So thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed it. If you liked the video, please hit the like button down below. It helps this video get out to more people and helps me build this channel to something that I really want it to be, and that is monetized. So speaking of monetization, we are less than 200 subs away from being monetized, so hit the subscribe button if you like what's going on here, like my vibe around here. I have more mic comparisons coming out and a lot of other ideas that I have for videos coming out soon. These mic comparisons are being the focus right now, but I have a bunch of other little things that I'm going to sprinkle in here and there. These mic reviews and mic comparisons do take a decent amount of time, a lot of time editing. Just for me, I like to be very meticulous about it, so I hope it is appreciated by you guys. And like I said, if you have any comments down in the comments section, if you want to ask me something more directly or just hang out with me, I stream on the weekends, and I'm trying to throw a stream during the week. So if you throw on the notification bell, you know exactly when I go live. If you just want to stop in for, I don't know, 5 minutes, say hi or whatever, say hey, I like the videos or whatever it is, just stop by and I'll to have a conversation. Most of the time, no one's there, so if you stop in, chances are we're just gonna have a one-on-one conversation. I do some dot-to-dot art and play some video games. Very chill and nothing too crazy. And that's all I got for you. Until next time, take care, and I'll see you in the next video. I missed that. I don't care. I don't care. She's trying to kill me. She's crazy. Lady, you crazy. Jesus. Don't kill me, lady. Is there any coinage? Oh no, it's just run. Just, oh my God, the lady tried to kill me.